Welcome to Passive Profit Partners Podcast, designed exclusively for ambitious professionals like you. Here, you'll find the valuable resources and insights you need to embark on a journey of intentional real estate investment, passive income, and achieving financial freedom. Our aim is to equip you with the spiritual, intellectual, and emotional tools necessary for your financial success. Join us in uncovering the treasures of wisdom and practical tools that have enriched the lives of our community. Tune in, not only to explore the mastery we've achieved, but also to engage in the pursuit of knowledge, continuously fueling success. This is your invitation to discover the solutions you've been seeking to enhance your financial frequency and boost your income. We're here to empower you, your financial journey, and provide you with insights and guidance you need to reach your goals. Welcome, dear souls, to an inspiring episode of Passive Profit Partners Podcast. Today we're discussing mastering the long game. We're joined by an exceptional expert, Michael Cobbs, who not only crafts strategies to create profit, but excels in the long term. Let's empower your financial journey right now. Today, I want to share with you my personal perspective on what mastering the long game means. And I was thinking about you guys this morning when writing in my journal, and I'd like to read what I wrote for you. Thinking in the long term means not only catering to immediate gratification, but it's about seeing life in periods of 5, 10, 20, even 30 years. Often we focus on just tomorrow or 30-day increments, and we do some, 60 and 90-day plans. That's all well and good. But when we're young, we believe we'll last forever, and that retirement is this distant thing that you don't have to think about. And we needn't concern ourselves with, your well-being in your golden years. When the truth is, if you pay attention to your health in your young years, you'll be healthy in your golden years. So it's important to create habits that serve you now for the future. This is one of the factors that distinguishes millionaires from those who remain in the middle class. For instance, if you spend $5 a day on a daily coffee over a span of 3 years, that adds up to $5,475. And that's a substantial amount that you could have invested in the stock market or something else that would give you joy and freedom in your life. And joy and freedom are what we're going for, isn't it? That's why I'm confident that crafting a financial future is something you can begin doing right now. Today, you don't need to be a financial expert to work it out. You simply need the intention and determination to secure a better future for yourself where your present actions bring about your joy for your future self. It's an act of self-love. I would talk to my kids about it like playing pool, where you're playing a strategy to get to an end point and not just thinking about hitting the ball into one pocket. You've got to think about your strategy, where that ball's going to go, so that you can create the end result that you want. Well, first, like we said, we start with savings. And when we get enough savings and we put away that 6 months to 1 year expenses, then we can think about investing. Let's say you saved that $1 or that $10 or that $100 whenever you can, and you get up to $1,000. You can buy a CD with that $1,000. That's when it changes from savings to investing, because now your money's working for you. Now you're getting an interest rate on top of that $1,000 that you've had. And when you get that money back in a year or whatever you've chosen as the time period, it's going to be worth that much more. If you get 5% interest, 10% interest, whatever they're paying, we wish they were paying 10%. We can amplify the amount of money that we're making in investments when you've saved up enough money to invest in a piece of real estate, I first suggest that you do invest around your hometown to get used to investing in real estate outside of your own home. However, then we can think about investing outside of your hometown in another state or outside the country. You can choose what we call an emerging market. It's the market in a certain state of development where it's in a growth period. There are different stages for real estate investment. It might be in a pre-growth period. It might be in what we call emerging market in a growth period, or it might be in a mature market. And one of the best places to invest in real estate is when it's in that emerging growth path, where you see the signs of growth in your town or city or country, wherever it is you're investing. The path of progress. You see businesses opening up on that street. You see homes being built. You see those homes being filled with people, and then more homes being built. Those are just some simple examples in a place where a town is growing, and it's growing so that you can then jump in there and place an investment that will then grow for you. Yes, we're going to bring Michael on in a minute. He has created developments in Belize, in Panama, in Nicaragua, in Portugal, and probably some other places as well, and done very well with all of them over the past 27 years. In a little magazine called International Living. And International Living recommended that you check out Panama and find your favorite place in Panama. So I came with my friend and we explored all over Panama. We also went to other Central American countries, but we loved Panama the most because it seemed to have the most advantages for the type of growth we were looking for. We came to Bocas and we saw a growing expat community. We saw a little barely outside of a fishing village where people lived subsistently, but the signs of growth were there. You could still buy relatively cheaply to other Caribbean islands, so there was plenty of room for growth. They had a stable government that encouraged investors and charged low taxes. We loved all these things about Panama and decided to invest here, and I've never been sorry. In the 20 years I've been here, my investments have grown exponentially. Tried Hawaii first. I even went to Mexico and I built a house there with a friend, but I was very nervous about the government in Mexico and I didn't feel like my investment in land there was secure. Here in Panama, I feel very secure with my investment and I feel safe here. And that was due to the research that I did of the advantages that Panama has over some other countries. Not that there is other places you can be. You know, I went to Belize and I would have loved to be in Belize because they're English speaking. However, everything at that time for me in Belize was too expensive. I couldn't afford what I wanted. And over here it was almost the same things, but 20 years earlier and I could afford it. Think about what you love to do that you couldn't do when you were younger because you had to make a living and felt like you couldn't earn a living that way, because your hobbies will often become your primary purpose in retirement. For me, I love to do little projects and be productive. So I created a little projects that I could work and do what I love to do, which is invest in real estate and create wonderful futures for other people in real estate. I'm building a house right now. And it's fun for me. And some people would say, that sounds like a lot of work. Well, that isn't for you. But for me, it's fun. And it's easy for me to plan and design the house and then find the land and then see it come to fruition and then put it on the market and then sell it to someone else so they can enjoy it. That for me is very rewarding. Find what's rewarding for you and do that. I would like to welcome Michael Cobbs, head of ECI Developments, who is an expert in crafting strategies to invest in emerging markets outside the country. Hi, Mike.
I am Michelle. Nice to be with you.
Nice to be with you. You know, today we're going to talk about mastering the long game, and I'd love to hear a little bit about you, our viewers would love to hear your story of how you got started down the path you got on, and we could start there.
Sure. Yeah. Fabulous. I like the topic of the long game. It's a great statement. It took me 25 years to become an overnight success, right? I think that's true of most overnight
successes.
They're many years in the making. Yeah, I started almost exactly 30 years ago, a little over 31 years ago, in Belize, identifying a need in the marketplace that wasn't being served, financing. And so we started a little mortgage company that provided financing to North Americans who wanted to buy a condo or a home or a property in Belize. And we've since expanded that, and it's become a much bigger business. But it was, it was seeing a need in the marketplace that wasn't being served. And as we developed our finance business, our mortgage business, I also started to see that properties weren't really meeting North American expectations, especially at the middle class market. The very high end properties, 500,000, $1 million up, those properties were really well done and they met North American expectations. But something you could buy for $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 was often lacking. And so we just decided that we would also fill the need for a middle class product that met a North American's expectation. And so that's kind of how we got started. And we've just built upon that year after year after year. It is a long game. And I think when you're working in Latin America, you have to be thinking long game, because there really isn't a short game to play here.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree and resonate with that, Mike. And that's one of the things I'm doing with Passive Profit Partners now is I see a gap in the market here in Bocas, and I will be attempting to fill it in the years to come. So it's very exciting to be working with you and doing that.
Thank you. Likewise, and you've been there a long time. I can't remember how many years, like 20 years, right? Something coming on that?
I bought property in Bocas 23 years ago because I saw a boom coming then, and it's been 20 years and I see another whole thing happening.
Right. It's an evolution of the boom you saw, right? You saw the boom, but this is a very special evolution, and I'm excited to be working with you on it. So, yeah.
Fantastic. So how do you view this concept of mastering the long game, and what insights do you wish you had had when you were formulating your you were formulating your strategy, because people, in their 30s and 40s and 50s who are now thinking about the future and they might not be able to see clearly some way to go on this.
Yeah. Can I give you just a glib answer first? Because it's one of those funny little, I learned it after the fact, right? So we named our company Exotic Key International, and Key is spelled C-A-Y, like the little islands off the coast of Belize, right? Exotic Key International. And not thinking that our business would ever be any more than this little mortgage company, right? And so as it grew, all of a sudden we grew outside of Belize. Now we're in Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, and all of a sudden, like, the name didn't fit anymore. So I would encourage people to think big on a name. That would be my long game thought, kind of a glib answer. But if I had to, I'm going to answer your question two ways. There's a saying that I came up with to working in the region, and it is absolutely all about the long game. And it's finding acceptance without acquiescence. Okay? And, because if you don't find acceptance, you're going to go crazy. I mean, Latin America is a land of contradictions and, just all kinds of crazy that we just can't think of in North America. But by the way, I love working in Latin America. There's nothing wrong with it and anything, but it's just different. It's just very different. And so being able to accept the differences, accept sort of what's coming at you without acquiescing and rolling over and saying, well, then I can't do it, right? And so to me, that balance is one, it's never perfect, but, try to keep that right down the middle line. And I think that's a strategy. That's strategy for success in this part of the world, right? Acceptance without acquiescence. But the bigger piece of the puzzle is that when you're in your 30s and 40s and 50s, we do start to think about longer term planning. What am I going to do in retirement? How am I going to achieve the financial means to live in retirement when my income stops, right? Or most of my income stops. And I think what you're talking about with the passive income is really key. How do we generate mailbox money? I think a lot of people call it mailbox money, right? Rent checks or whatever. But forms of passive income that keep us in cash flow when our principal jobs or whatever it is, goes away in retirement. And so if we're in our 30s and 40s, we have the ability to be in this planning. And it's not just planning, but it is first planning, but then it's taking action. What's the next step? How do I actually engage it and do it? And that's the far harder part, of course, because it's risky. You're planning, you put it on paper, keep it in your head, you can talk about it. But when you actually commit to action, risk goes way up. But if we're not willing to take some of those risks, then I think we forego the benefit of that, much later on, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years into the future.
Yeah. I call that educated risk, where you do your research into what it is you want to do. For us, it was investing in Latin America because we saw that as a viable way to get good returns on our money. And we took, yes, it's a risk, but it's an educated risk, and it's a good risk to take. If you never take any risks, you never get anything done. Life is a risk. Nothing is 100% guaranteed.
That's right. Walking outside, getting in your car to go to the grocery store, it's a risk, right? But you weigh it out. Do I want to eat or do I want to stay at home and starve, right? And the thing about buying real estate, which you did, you said 23 years ago, and what we started about 30 years ago, right? This idea, it kind of came to me over time, but I like to talk about real estate in the developing world, Latin America being our sort of hemisphere, right? It's the north-south, the time zones are about the same, so it's easy. There are developing parts of the world all around the world, but this is easy, right? The time zones are similar, culture, language is Spanish, whatever. So it's a time machine, it's a time machine. We can really step back in time. And you did 23 years ago, you looked at Boca, you said, wow, this place is going to go someplace. And it did, and it is. It's not done going. In fact, it's
done. It's getting ready to blast off, in my opinion.
And mine too, by the way. I'm a huge fan of Bocas del Toro, and lots of parts of this region. Now, it has to be thin sliced because obviously Bocas is part of Panama, so you could say Panama, but parts of Panama are going to grow faster than others. But as a country, I think Panama is going to do very, very well, right? So, but it's a time machine. If we look at things, like I can just tell you that the first person, I know people think I'm crazy when I say this, the first person who puts a Dairy Queen franchise in Nicaragua is going to make millions. Make millions. So, or maybe Panama too. I don't know. You've got lots of brands there. But it's funny about those kinds of things where you just say, well, what's next in this path of progress or the time machine?
What's in this air? And there's so much.
Exactly. And you've identified something really, really important that's missing, that serves a need of this aging population in the U.S. and in Canada. And so when you identify those needs and then have the years of experience you have there on the ground, boots on the ground, to be able to serve that demographic, right, well, you've really positioned yourself. It is educational risk, but your boots on the ground for 20 years and the team you're building around you takes that risk way, way down and increases the opportunity side way, way up.
I agree. And the experience, too, of having been doing this for 30 years,
Yep. Yeah.
Well, why do you consider real estate to be a valuable asset for a long-term strategy for our viewers out there?
Sure. Well, I think real estate generally, whether it's domestic, meaning U.S., Canada, or international, outside your home country. To me, outside your home country is international, right? So either domestic, in your home country, outside. I'm a huge fan of real estate. Look, just think about it in very simple terms. And we have inflation. There's arguments about what the inflation rate is. If you take out this, that, and the other thing, it's only 3%, but whatever, who knows, right? But there is inflation. And so concrete, steel, doors, windows, lights, wires, outlets, faucets, all that stuff costs money to have, right? To make and then to put into a home. And so over time, as the cost of those things go up, right? If you own a home that has those things, you pay for it in today's dollars, and 10 years from now, it costs twice as much to build that house. your house hasn't really grown in value all that much, right? It's just preserved the value because you still have all the same stuff. You have doors, windows, faucets, lights, windows, all that kind of stuff, right? So your house might be worth twice as much, but you still have all the stuff it takes to make that house. So it preserved the value of those assets, right? So in some sense, it is a great investment. I look at it as a store of wealth more so than an investment. But when you take that property and you own it as a rental property, now all of a sudden your cost, right? Your cost basis, let's say it's $100,000 today, and your rent's $1,000 a month. So after you pay your taxes and stuff, you make a 10% return, right? Now, as rents go up because the cost of housing goes up, and in 10 years, the rent's $2,000 a month, but your cost basis on the house is still $100,000. So now instead of making 20% on your house, you're making 20% return on that investment, right? And to me, when you take that asset and you turn it into cash flow, you've taken that store of value, which is really important because it's a hedge against inflation, right? But now you've turned it into an investment. And I think whether you're doing it domestically or internationally, real estate is a great investment. To me, the important thing for so many people is, we have all of our assets in one place. We have all of our eggs, our job, our stocks and bonds, our bank account, our real estate, everything's in one basket. We have all of our eggs in one basket. And it's just prudent to take a couple of those eggs and put them in another basket over here, because you just never know what's going to happen to this basket, right? And so prudence would dictate some percentage of your assets. Pick the number. I kind of like a third. That's probably too strong for a lot of people, but maybe it's 10%. Say, okay, I'm going to take 10% of my assets. I'm going to put them in an international basket, right? Pick the number that feels comfortable to you, of course, but prudence would dictate some of those eggs should be in a basket that's not domestic, not in your home country. And real estate's a good one. I think real estate is just a solid investment because it almost never goes down in value. Yeah, sometimes, whatever, up and down stuff, but goodness.
But land never goes.
Not over any 20-year period.
Yeah, land never goes to zero. It's right. Tangible. You got it. It's not like a stock.
Right? And it's functional, right? If you have a house that somebody can rent, people need shelter, yes. Right? It's a need, right? So I think when you put yourself into a position to serve somebody with what people need, shelter, right? And you do it well and affordably, you've put yourself in a good investment position.
I would totally agree with that. That's some really, I think, profound insights for people who are thinking about it, maybe hadn't thought about investing internationally, because diversification in this uncertain economy is key. You want to spread your eggs out so that you have more safety, more security, and growth. Because I think also that the opportunities in Latin America, and particularly in Panama, create, I think, a larger opportunity to make a higher return.
I think the property values in the States have inflated so much. It's going to be hard to get yield. In fact, you see that with the big institutions, right? They're struggling to find yield. And internationally, that's not the case because you just don't have that overwhelming money chasing deals, right? So, right.
Yeah. Well, I think those are great strategies, and thank you for sharing them with us. It's been such a pleasure to have you.
Happy to be here, Michelle. Thank you. And thanks for what you're doing. I mean, you're getting the good word out to folks that are listening and watching. And it's important because I think a lot of times this information just isn't there. It's just not readily available. So by doing what you do to get the good word out, you're serving a lot of folks. So
well, that's my intention. Thank you so much, Michael, for sharing your strategic insights about mastering the long game. We enjoyed being with you today, and if you have any comments or questions, please put them below or click on the link, and I'd be happy to have a consultation about your financial awareness. Thank you. Passive Profit Partners is a private equity firm dedicated to building genuine wealth through purpose-driven real estate investments, delivering above-average returns for our investors while diversifying their portfolios. Our real estate investment projects create a positive ripple effect in the world, fostering fair employment, supporting entrepreneurs, and elevating community prosperity. Does this resonate with you? Answer that call by investing in one of KPP's projects. For more information, visit our website at www.passiveprofitpartners.com. And if this conversation has provided you with valuable insights, please don't hesitate to reach out. It would be an honor to connect with you and confirm that our message is making an impact. Subscribe and give us a like to stay updated with our latest developments.